Presented by GhostBed.com.
Yeah, welcome to Drinkin' Bros, kids. Drinking on a Tuesday. It's usually a day early. That's a day early. Dan and I usually start on Wednesdays.
Hump day.
Yeah, you got to.
I don't know what hump day means.
It's where people fuck on that day. So
what is it? Is it not about like asses, like hump?
I don't think so. I think it's camel related. Yeah, it's right there.
It's about it kind of getting over the week.
Yeah, just kind of boom.
I start my week on Wednesday.
That's
Like everything that
should.
happens before that is kind of a mistake.
Mondays and Tuesdays are bullshits, but not today. We're joined by Clayne Crawford here today, kids. You're welcome. Cheers. Cheers. Having some hard AF seltzers.
We're into
here
it
today.
already.
We're already into
It's
it.
It's gonna be an afternoon.
Goddamn right. Goddamn right. And
I'm
then
gonna have to
an
navigate
early evening and then an evening. So
I'm gonna have to navigate a fucking Ohio State fan and an Alabama fan at the same time. Usually, that's like fighting a war on two fronts.
Yep.
And we learned from Hitler that's not a good idea. So
we are doing the college football preview show as well today after this. Me being Ohio State and Alabama, they came in at 1 and 2, so that'll be a fun show this afternoon.
Oh, they came in at 1 and 2 today.
Sure did. Alabama's 1, Ohio State's 2. And then the Heisman Trophy odds just came out as well. C.J. Stroud at 1, Bryce Young at 2.
This is crazy, but we'll get into this.
We will.
But goodness gracious,
4 out of the top 5 players were either Bama or Ohio State. There was only one guy out in the top 5, and it was that kid from Oklahoma who transferred. But we'll get into that on the sports show today.
Yeah.
God damn it. Today, it's about you. You rose up from the dead, damn it. We thought you were canceled. And you came back.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if I was canceled, but I was certainly backed. You know, they put me in a corner, which was, I think motivating. We went out and made I'd always wanted to make my own films, and I was, I think it's a lot of work to kind of pull everyone together and get that village, because comedians, you can go on stage and you can do a show. Musicians can kind of go into a bar and you can play. As an actor, you kind of have to get, a collective group of individuals all kind of buying into the same idea to go kind of do what I do, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. But
nobody's really coming out to watch the monologue anymore. Single dude on stage.
I know. Nobody's watching Ethan Hawke do a 12-hour play in Russian. Like, they're just not.
It's just not doing it right. So, like, trying to, I'd always kind of taken the easy road and just continued just to be an actor. So when that kind of happened, it forced me to kind of go do my own thing. And I hired this guy who I'd always loved his cinematography, Robert Machoian. He's a photography professor at BYU. And he'd been making little films with his children. And I called him. I did your show in, June?
Yeah.
And I think I called
him.
And
it exploded within an hour. Do you remember we were at my house?
Yeah.
And we did this show because you wanted to tell your story unedited. And I was like, well, podcasts are the best way to do that. And that was looking a little bit into the future back then when that happened, because now everybody's going on podcasts versus like Jimmy Fallon or I mean, all those guys are out now. Corden's out. Samantha Bee just got ousted yesterday from TBS. Like that format is slowly dying and giving way to podcasts because it is unedited. You can say whatever you want and it's not going to be scripted. They're not going to fucking bash you. And when you came on the program and did that episode, I mean, it took off right away. What was the response like after that?
Well, it's interesting because I had tried, because Variety came to me and they had, through a friend of a friend, it was like, we just want to tell your story. We're talking to some of the other crew members, and it ended up being this. That's when they actually released the audio tapes, and it was just
fired from Lethal Weapon. He's a fucking asshole.
So it was definitely not what I thought it was going to be. So I felt like I just wanted to. Podcasts are so conversational, there is. So for me, I wanted just that opportunity for people just to kind of get a true sense of who I am as a human being and kind of put it all into context, essentially. But as it relates to how I responded, I was not a social media guy. My wife kind of ran all my social media. What was interesting about this event, I think I went into it with like 50,000 followers and then had, like 250,000 within a few days of kind of getting canned. And it was a result of the incident itself and people just being curious and, of course, your show. And for me, I think that was part of what motivated me to go do my own film is that I felt that there was actual support out there, and maybe people were able to see through some of the bullshit, and it motivated me to go be creative again when there was a moment where, you know, you just want to kind of pull the covers over your head.
That's a good lesson, though. If you're out there, like, the way you react to things matters. Right?
Yeah, it matters.
Like, you should spend as much time supporting the shit you like as you do bitching about the shit you don't like. And if you're not doing that, you're kind of a cunt, to be honest. Like, that's a net negative for society if you're doing that. Right. Find some shit that you actually like and get into it. Be a geek. Like, enjoy shit. It's fucking okay to enjoy things, even though I don't smile. I get it. That's a fucking disease.
You do smile, and you have a beautiful smile.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that that's so true. You know, it is a matter of kind of we have to support. We do get into a trend, right, where we only want to bitch about that, you know, my flip phone cracked when I opened it up, you know, and I want to be really mad at Z Flip.
Yep.
But instead, I want to try to make sure that I'm only excited about the positive and kind of supporting things that I love and that are kind of dying off. And yes, the fans were amazing, and I did not, because I was hidden on that show. I worked 75 hours a week, which was the first time as an actor I'd ever been away from my home and family for that long, to where I was playing a character more than I was being myself, which was super unusual as an artist, where I was just closed off from the world, so I didn't even realize that the fan base kind of was what it had grown into, and that people were kind of appreciating what I'd brought to that character. So it was super supportive, and it gave me, again, the confidence to kind of go out and kind of make my own project. And then we made the film and took it to Sundance and sold it to Hulu, and it's really kind of given me a new career in a sense, you know, to where
And you're talking about the killing of two lovers.
Oh, correct. Yeah. The killing of two lovers.
Yeah, and if you can bring up that poster, Bob, we can put that on screen because, you know, when you're going through something like that, and we've chatted about this on the show 100 times with people who get canceled or some people who've gotten Me Too'd and all that other shit, how do you come back from it and how do you come out of it, right? In your case, I think it helped when you came on the show, you did the podcast, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, I kind of figured that guy was an asshole." And then all the but here's
not
the thing.
you,
not you, but Damon, right? Damon Wayans.
Oh, because I could be. People could think I could be an asshole as well, so I get it.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I think maybe watching The Last Dance could have softened people's images about assholes in leadership positions a little bit.
Exactly. But the media then had kind of given up on that narrative of fuck Clayne Crawford, and then everybody was kind of open to, well, maybe Damon was an asshole in this as well.
That's because it wasn't the fans in the first place. It was like,
look, it was just a toxic situation, and it was no one individual's fault. It was it was the machine, and we kind of all got thrown into it with different ideas of which the direction and expectations. And the problem was there was just no communication. So again, for me, it was the most. I turned 40 a week after I found out, or I turned 40 and then I found out a week later it hit the press. So for me, it was this big turning point where I was like, okay, for 20 years I've been pursuing this career to be an actor, and to kind of have a show on prime time that's doing well is kind of the pinnacle. It's what we'd all kind of, and I got up to that point, and I realized, oh heck, this is not what I wanted. But I was so grateful for the skill set that I had been able to gain throughout that process, and especially on that show. Like from the action standpoint, it was so educational. It's like a 2-year course, so it gave me so much fuel to kind of go in and again make that little movie, The Killing of Two Lovers, which again we took to Sundance and we sold it to Neon. Had a great theatrical run, got nominated for Spirit Awards. And I shot that film for $32,000.
Yeah, put the poster up on screen there. So this is currently on Hulu right now. So if you're out there and want to watch it, it is a fantastic movie. Your performance in this was in particular singled out by most of the media, and they were like, "Oh shit, now this guy's just a great actor again."
Yeah, it's interesting to see a film these days where the critical acclaim and the Rotten Tomatoes score are in the same ballpark.
Right.
Like the Rotten Tomatoes score is 93. People love this movie, and critics also love the movie. You know what I mean? It's really interesting. You don't see that shit much anymore.
No, I watched Nope over the weekend.
Yeah,
and I thought it was terrible. By the way, I know Logan Paul's getting hammered for his review, but he was dead on the money on that. But you're right. The first thing I checked was the scores, and they didn't match up. This one does. On both, critics loved it and the fans loved it. And I think this is probably what catapulted you into doing all this other shit, because right now you're starring in like 90 things.
Well, I mean, what it is I look, when you work in the industry, in any industry, long enough, and then you decide that you kind of want to branch out and be your own boss, right? What you've learned, maybe not how to be successful, what you've learned what not to do.
Right, yeah, which is important.
I think it's extremely important. And for me, the one thing that I saw that was so heartbreaking in this industry is that it's always approached from a fear-based mentality.
Safetyism, yeah.
Yeah, and and I think when you're creating art, and look, even if it's some, silly primetime show, it has to come from a place of rock and roll where you feel confident and you feel that you can push the boundaries and we're all going to try things. And with this film specifically, I made it on such a small scale so that I could control that. If I lost the money, who cares, right? My wife spends that on a vacation for us. So I was like, let's forget, So for me, it allowed us to go in again with that kind of rock and roll mentality of let's make this film the best that we can and let's make it relatable. And I mean, I'm talking, guys, I showed this movie to, 10 different people that I love and respect, and they all said you cannot have that opening scene. You think you got canceled before?
Yeah.
You cannot point a gun at a woman's head because the Me Too movement was exploding at that time. And I couldn't understand. I said, guys, this is the film. Like, it sets the entire tone. And again, what was exciting about that film, and it relates to you kind of saying that these scores lined up, we only trusted our hearts and our gut. And I think that's what we've lost in cinema. After the 70s, I guess it was 2001: Space Odyssey really kind of screwed up the system. We're like, okay, well, we're never letting that happen again, right? We're going to make sure that this is kind of ran more like a business
until James Cameron shows up. But he's the best ever, so you can't really apply normal rules to that guy. And
you can't apply normal rules to that guy. What he's doing seriously is really incredible.
Yeah. It is, but you've got to have the box office clout to be able to flex that and be like, all right, great. Because right now, I think there's probably 4 left.
He's 2 and 3 on the all-time list, right?
Right.
Avatar and Titanic are 2 and 3 all time, right?
Yeah.
So what the fuck?
But I think you've got
really say anything to him.
Scorsese,
yeah,
James Cameron, Christopher Nolan, and Tarantino, and that's probably it. Who have that type of power.
Let's put some goddamn respect on Steven Spielberg.
Even Spielberg, though, it seems like.
Yeah, what's he put out that's innovative in the last?
I also think
forever.
I think reason why is he's so popular is that he's a master manipulator, right? He's able to kind of tell these stories in a way that he's like, you feel this now, you feel this here, and for us, it's kind of like going to Sugarfish, right? And maybe that's a weird reference, but you don't have to think about it when you go into the process. You know that Steven's going to give you a very specific executed journey, and you're going to feel all the right feels at all the right times. And with Tarantino, I don't know about you guys, but I've watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't know how many times. Every time it's on, I end up just it's kind of like Shawshank. I watch it because I find something new every time I watch the film.
But I'm still not entirely sure what the fuck it's about.
Me neither.
Which is, look,
does it matter?
No, one of the most successful sitcoms of all time billed itself as a show about nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like being entertained is the point. It's
Look,
not. It doesn't have to have
so
narrative.
sophisticated. We have seen our palates, right? We've watched. There's so much content out there, and we've seen it all that we truly, at the end of the day, we just want to see true characters, and we want to be able to watch these. I think that's why, I don't know if you guys watched Fleabag.
Yes.
Oh my God! The whole first 6 episodes, you don't even know what you're watching, and you do not care.
That woman exploded off. Was it Phoebe Bridgers? Is
That's
that her
right.
name? Yeah.
That's right. And that was a one-woman show that she'd been doing for a while, and she turned into the series. And to me, I thought, okay, that's going to change the game. Because we realize that it's just about her. We're so interested in the decisions she's making and her journey. We don't care what her motivation is or what the goal is going to be. And I think there's a new show on FX called The Bear. I don't know if you guys have watched that.
Just
I haven't
picked up
seen
for
it yet, but it's
season 2.
the kid from fucking Shameless. He's a really good actor, right?
He's got this Dustin Hoffman thing, like a young Dustin Hoffman thing going on. The show is truly just and I have owning a couple of restaurants, being able to watch it, they have captured it so beautifully. But it's just a show about human beings navigating situations.
Yeah.
And it's completely, look, I think that's why our kids watch videos of other kids packing themselves in a box and mailing themselves to grandma's while they eat Cheez-Its in the box and watch other videos. We just love watching human behavior.
Yeah.
And I don't think you need these massive car chases and look, Top Gun was amazing. We all went to go watch it because we wanted to see the boss do his thing in that plane. But I think there's value in these other little films where it's more relatable to our everyday struggles. Mm-hmm. Right.
And did Getting the Finest Kind come out of that?
What was interesting is...
Because this is for, by the way, for those who don't know, we've talked about it on the show before. It's a movie on Paramount Plus. It's Ben Foster and Tommy Lee Jones.
Right. And Toby Wallace.
And Toby Wallace. You're in it. Shit. I went to that guy with the White House. Fuck, I texted you his picture. We're live, so I can't go back now.
You can't go back.
He was in Wings.
And here's, I know, and I was going to say, but
Tim Daly.
That's it.
Tim.
Thank you.
And I didn't get to meet Tim. I didn't get to work with Tim. But and I know he hates this because I hate when people say how much they love Walk to Remember. But fuck, I loved Wings. And I told Scott Bakula that when I worked with him. I was like, dude, I love fucking Quantum Leap.
Don't get Dan started on Quantum Leap.
No, I've got
Dan's got Quantum Butt Leap. You know that's what he wants to do.
This
right?
it's a spinoff from Quantum Leap. It's called Quantum Butt Leap, and this dude who is a researcher, but he's also super homophobic, keeps leaping into the bodies of very sexually aggressive gay male bottoms. And he can only leap to the next one after he gets plowed.
So he's got to have he's going to have.
I'm thinking it'll be controversial.
Oh yeah,
in nature.
Well, not really, because at the end of it, it's a heartwarming ending.
Well, the point is for him to get over his
homophobia.
Yeah,
and that's the only way to do it is for gay sex to happen over and over to him and him only.
It's called
he never gets to enjoy
it's called exposure therapy.
Exactly.
Right.
So with Bakula, we've reached out to Scott. We know him as Bakula, obviously, because we're close. Sorry that you're not. We've reached out to Bakula and been like, hey, so would you consider this? And we'll launch it during Pride Month, and it'll be a blast.
Yeah.
Being the nicest guy on the planet, I can't imagine that reaction.
Bakula?
Listen to me. I did an episode.
Is he Canadian?
And then we're going to go all the way back. He may be Canadian.
Scott Bakula is from St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh,
is he
wow.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
By the way, St. Louis, Missouri, the City Museum, can we just talk about that place and how incredible it is?
Oh, my God. Now Bob's going to...
Hold on. Someone broke me into that place after hours.
Yeah.
And we took a bunch of mushrooms and went through that place. Holy cow. It is one of the most remarkable building. Talk about a piece of art.
It's
the entire
fucking
structure.
The entire thing's art. It's almost like this dystopian steampunk abandoned factory full of crazy art and all. It's like a half adult playground. You're allowed it's for kids during the day. At night you can go get shit faced there though, which is a bad mix because sometimes kids are still. I've been very drunk around children at the City Museum.
So I did an episode of I don't know everything that's on CSI. I've done an episode of it at some point in my time trying to provide for my children.
You just brought it up the other day, I think. You were like, hey,
I was
dude,
looking at your IMDb. So me and my wife have kids, and we're just fucking old people now. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize Clayne was LaSalle's brother on fucking NCIS New Orleans. I was like, I didn't realize that's who I was watching.
So yeah.
Did you meet AJ on the New York one?
No, AJ and I met at the Playboy.
Buckley?
Yeah, at the Playboy
Mansion?
golf tournament. And then we were at the mansion that night for the lingerie party.
That makes more sense.
That's how I met AJ.
Does.
Knowing what I know about
Before we were married and had families and so forth, it was just madness. But I worked with Scott, and I worked with Scott on an episode of this show, with where I played the brother. And my first day on set, I'm in a prison cell, which is how most of my characters start the episode, and I see a guy picking up debris on stage, like trash off the ground, and putting it in a garbage can, and then he beelines and comes and sits down with me and Scott, and he sits down in the prison cell with me while they're setting up the lights because I just wanted to be in the space. Try to meet everyone, try to get the butterflies out. He came and sat down with me for 30 minutes and just talked to me about my family and his journey, and not the nicest actor I've met. One of the nicest people I've ever met.
Bakula.
Just a kind leader, man.
What do you mean when you say not the nicest actor? Meaning when he's in his game.
Meaning,
face
I think I say what I mean is, I think a lot of people are like, that's the nicest athlete I've ever met, or the nicest actor. I'm saying he might be one of the nicest human beings.
Oh, I see. Not just for an actor, but just in general.
Yeah. Because I think to say it's for an actor, it's like, well, that's really not saying much because that's just somebody who's not being a complete dick. But for him, he's just a wonderful person. But to Finest Kind, so Finest Kind happened. I'd read for Brian Hagelin, who wrote Mystic River and L.A. Confidential.
And Taylor Sheridan's producing this.
Taylor Sheridan Jordan is, he's got a massive deal at 101, and they've got their thing at Paramount Plus, and they kind of wanted Brian to do a film because Brian directed A Knight's Tale. He did 42. He did Legend with Tom Hardy.
Yeah, Legend was a good one.
Yeah, he's a great dude, and I had tested for him or read for him for 42. And he's like, and it was a really great meeting. And he's like, would you come to baseball tryouts? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Well, I was staying with my buddy because I was in Alabama at the time on my farm. So I was staying out in L.A. with my buddy Dick Coates, sleeping on his couch and auditioning. And he took me. We all went to Korean barbecue at our place on Olympic and Western.
Oh, yeah.
That was a rough night.
Sure was. And I ran through you.
I had baseball the next morning. Oof. And
did the back of your pants look like you slid into home before you slid into home?
Every moment felt like I was constantly hot-mouthed, right? Where I was either going to shit or throw up at any given moment. And I just kept going to the bathroom, and I never heard from him, obviously. Didn't get the job, never heard from him. I think Lucas, actually, Black, ended up playing.
the Pee Wee Reese part.
Yeah, I think Lucas ended up doing it.
Well, you should have lied and been like, I don't know if you know this, but Pee Wee Reese,
he was a
diarrhea
shitter.
all the time.
Yeah. Just spicy diarrhea.
Crohn's.
Yeah,
Crohn's. Nobody knew. Undiagnosed.
Well, when you said the leaky, when you were saying, I was like, "This is a guy about is that a guy with Crohn's?" Is he? So he actually called and it was like, "Hey, read the script," and I got on a call with him. And it was funny because I said, look, I just want to address the elephant in the room kind of thing. This is kind of how that situation. I didn't kind of explain anything. I just said, look, this is who you get as a human being. And it was more of, it's really the mouse in the room, kind of thing. So I think for me, I had to just go out. And I think sometimes it's just showing that you're not going to get knocked down. And I think for me, I had to kind of go show my worth as an artist. And I think it's kind of like athletes. You get busted, but you go throw, the game-winning touchdown the next week, and everyone kind of forgets about what happened, right?
They do. And not a lot of people realize that. Like, you take Aziz Ansari, for example. When that happened to him, I thought it was a really shitty situation, and we talked about it on air. And there was no reason for that girl to write an op-ed piece about an uncomfortable date or whatever. But he retreated for like 3 or 4 years and didn't pop up again, even though Netflix said, hey, we're with you and we stand by your story and everything else. Come and make your show again. I think it was Masters of None. And, and he had said no and took some time off and kept taking time off. I think you got to jump back in there because the attention span of most people these days, it's a 72-hour news cycle. And then you're kind of washed out.
Well, and to be clear, there were some awful things that were brought to light for a lot of different individuals over the last 3 or 4 years. And I think there was a majority of people that were doing some really awful shit, right? And I think that's across all platforms in all worlds. And we are now, everyone has a voice, with social media. And so I support people being empowered and bringing monsters to light who are doing awful things, especially on a sexual nature. To can somebody and kind of justify it that they were an emotional terrorist or that they yelled or something, that's just that's a bunch of horse shit. And I do think that there were a lot of people that kind of slid into that world. So as it relates to kind of coming back from this cancel culture, I think it kind of got out of hand, but the intention was right. What Harvey was doing, some of these individuals that kind of got brought down. I think Hollywood is a terrifying place for anyone. I don't care what nationality, what color, your religion, male or female. It is it's a place where they take advantage, right? And I think it needed to kind of all that needed to be brought to light, and I'm glad that it's becoming a safer place to work,
Well, unless you're working with Alec Baldwin.
Yeah. Then, boom, you can get blown away. Nailed
I'll take that applause.
Yep. Please hit the applause. There we
Can
go.
take that?
Yeah, you're welcome.
That was me.
You're welcome.
That was me.
Very Jeb moment of you.
Please clap.
It needed to happen.
We need an applause button.
I
with a little
feel
light
like
here.
it needed to happen.
I'm actually going to
Really
replace
did.
the applause button with the
How
Jeb
does
Bush.
that, and I do not want to go down the rabbit hole, but you and I have worked on many sets where there's weapons, and the amount of individuals that weapon travels through those hands that is checked before it enters ours. What happened in that set?
I know what happened on that set.
Well, we know people that were on that set. I don't want to get into that because I want to stay on positive stuff. We
There's
both know
pending
actors that are on that
litigation
set.
there.
There's pending litigation, right? There's but For crying out loud.
Yeah.
For crying out loud.
We know the answer, and it's fine. But, you know, I'm. Is it weird that I'm jealous? Like Alec Baldwin got to murder. That's the only thing that Dan's got over me, right? Is that he's killed hundreds of people, and I just want a couple, dude. I want a cyclist. I want to just kill a cyclist.
I will try to segue, and I will say that one thing about gun safety, and I'll tell a fun story that when I was in Australia shooting The Great Raid, which no fault to John Dahl, who I love as a director, turned into The Great Charade. We were there for 6 months shooting this Miramax film.
6 months?
Oh, yeah.
For the love of God. Now, look, I love Australia, but that accent gets really fucking old after a while, and everything, and all the vowels being dragged out the way that they are. But there was we went to boot camp. And we went to boot camp for 2 weeks, and it's Max Martini, Sam Worthington, myself, Mark Consuelo, incredible, great cast of human beings, Benjamin Bratt. We all had M1 Grands with full magazines.
I believe that weighs about 22 pounds. Let me look that up, actually.
Yeah.
Well, the poor bastard carrying the BAR, he was, and my character, of course, I was so stoked when I read the script, but I carried a bazooka, and then my ass had to carry it throughout boot camp. But the point I'm making is we had full load blanks, full mags at all times. So we would be asleep at night, and they would do these surprise attacks with fireworks, and we would all have to wake up and jump out of our tents and lay in these foxholes that we had dug in preparing for this kind of
Ranger graves, yeah.
It was great, man, but I can't tell you how many accidental discharges we had during that project. You're just in the middle of the night and you're saying, God! Some actors screaming their head off. So, you know, maybe a little bit of little more safety brought into the firearms conversation as it relates to films is not necessarily a bad thing.
Wasn't that the one where James Franco he had his feet wrapped up? And they were carrying him around in between scenes?
Jimmy's he's one of those method actors.
What was fucking Joseph Fiennes doing then? Because he's the one that had whatever the fuck. What disease is it?
Joseph Fiennes was actually a prisoner of war, but funny thing about Joseph was surfing during the film and came off his board, and the board came back and the fin hit him in the lip.
Oh,
and
shit.
he had to go into plastic surgery. I mean, we shut down production for like 3 weeks, which is probably why we're there for 6 months. But it was a shit show. But yes, Jimmy is a method actor, and his character had bad feet because of jungle rot in the Philippine jungles. And yes, he required medics to come to his tent every morning and wrap his feet to put on his shoes. And look, here's the thing. Daniel Day-Lewis's performances are nothing shy of incredible, okay?
Yes.
And he is a method actor.
Yeah. 3 Oscars.
I mean, he knocks it out the park just about every time he's up there.
Trace.
I mean, he's the Nick Saban of actors.
Relax. We'll get there.
Sure, we'll get there this
Fucking
afternoon.
asshole.
Fucking
Jesus
can't.
Christ,
Fucking
man.
Alabama
Just wanna
fan,
barf.
dude. Jesus.
We're only halfway through this goddamn show.
I mean,
I started drinking because of how bad the next episode is.
oh boy, the Bama shit's gonna fucking fly next episode.
Whoa.
Don't try to push it all on him.
I know, right? Because the Buckeye, he doesn't. I'm sure you guys get a daily dose
fucking
of
day.
the Ohio State University.
Imagine going to a G5 school. Be like, oh, can I like mention that we're playing a game today? No.
No, you can't. They don't count. It
It's
doesn't
like, I got a
fucking
couple
count.
of buddies that went to ECU, and they're like the fucking Purple Pirates.
Oh,
I love the fuck.
I will go fucking hard against that as
You know,
well.
well, I like it because it's a great place to fucking party, to be honest. That's all I
it is a
care
great
about.
place.
And they party, and
Yeah.
look, they
Greenville, North
no doubt
Carolina
about it.
is
But
a
that's the only
good
thing they're
place
doing.
to fucking party.
The only thing they're doing.
yeah.
They're not winning football games.
Yeah, they're not winning spelling bees either.
no.
Yeah, but the partying is nice. It's like fucking Morgantown.
Yeah, the partying is nice, but I didn't know. I don't know if I told you this in person afterwards, but I called you before doing a movie with Franco. So I did a movie with Franco afterwards, maybe 5 years later, and I go, hey, what was he to work like? And you told me that story. And I said, all right, cool. I don't think there's nothing method you could possibly do in this movie. However, my first introduction to him was at lunch on this film, and they're catered, best food you can possibly bring. He brings his own salad from Whole Foods, and he's wearing a leather jacket. The movie was shot in the summer. It was 108 degrees that day. No reason for that either. It looked like he had slept in a garbage can and maybe not had brushed his teeth. That was not the character in this film. That was just him in real life.
Right.
And I remember sitting down with him at lunch. It was my first introduction to him, and I'd seen a rough cut of what was the weed movie? Pineapple Express.
Express, yeah.
So a 3-hour rough cut, 3.5 hour.
That
rough
movie's
cut.
fucking funny.
It's awesome.
Dude.
And
that's a funny
by the way, so the night before, because they'd said, hey, come and do notes or whatever, and I was like, great. It was 3.5 hours of this rough cut, and I was like, you knew they had miles to go on this, right? And I was like, oh my God, dude, I laughed for 3 hours of this. It's going to blow up. So I told him that, and I said, it's going to be the biggest movie of the summer. It's amazing, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what are you going to do after this? And no lie, it was like James Dean. He dipped back into James Dean, and he goes, I don't know. I think I'm going to go to Europe and paint for 3 months or something like that. I haven't decided. And I was like, all right, cool, man. And there was nowhere to go in that conversation because I can't fucking relate.
You know what the interesting thing about that is that people kind of expect that out of artists, but if you're just a normal dude, they're like, oh, that's a story.
Yeah,
He's just a normal dude. So these people who are edgelords,
I think
Right?
they want the story. I think
This is what I thought.
I think they want the story because
well, you need a little bit of it.
Cut to 5 months later, right? We finished shooting this movie, and the director came out, and he's like, hey, come to my house and give some notes on this cut or whatever. I was like, yeah, cool. And it gets to this one part with Franco, and he's like, I don't really like this. I might cut it or whatever. And I go, okay, cool. I go, by the way, what did he end up doing after that movie? And he goes, oh, man, it was weird. I mean, he went to, like, Europe and painted for, like, 3 months. And I was like,
look,
fuck off. Did he really?
you're dealing with a creature that was always fucking probably talking, right? And their parents were just like, would you just shut the fuck up and get out of the room, you know? So you're dealing with an artist, you know, actors are guys, men and women that probably just weren't hugged enough as children, you know? So we really have to kind of create these personas but also I really believe that I think Hollywood, when they meet somebody and they're just like, oh, he's a normal dude, they immediately lose interest. They want you to be these weird, fucked up people who are completely damaged and just unique and different. And it's like, really, everybody's just a bunch of normal dudes.
I was going to say Hugh Jackman, but I guess he's been a gay man married to a woman for 25 years. So he's got something. Who's normal?
Yeah. I actually wrote that in a description with the scripted series that's coming out for the romance novels for dudes. The trailer's up now, actually. And I wrote in there, I was like, if you think Hugh Jackman's straight, this podcast isn't for you, Holmes. It's not for you. You can move along. Fuck. I think I even wrote fuckface in the description. You can move along. Now, I'm not going to ask your opinion on Hugh Jackman because he's a damn fine actor. He's an EGOT, probably.
I would say that he is a fucking triple threat, first and foremost.
Is he an EGOT?
And Logan, you can say whatever
Logan
you
is
want
my
to say.
favorite of all.
It's the best that and Joker, the best superhero movies ever made, right? Like, hands down.
Joker was pretty good. We'll see how the second one is because they're making another one of those now.
They are, yeah.
But I like Logan.
Gaga's in it.
Logan is one of the best.
Is Lady Gaga going to play?
Yep.
Logan would be like if they made an entire movie about, I don't know, like fucking instead of Iron Man dying, they made a movie about Tony as a fucking like old man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to see how that all went downstream. It's really interesting.
I'm such a fan, but also I'm such a fan of discipline is so sexy, you know, and
that
for
dude,
him,
nobody got. It's like he did what fucking Sly did, as far as the fucking body.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
when he talks about the headaches when he's strapped down to that chair when he is so shredded. I mean, again,
like that dude, he hadn't had a carb in like fucking 6 years at that.
We were talking about that with Foster.
Yeah.
What he had to do for his film,
for the boxing one.
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
One?
Holy fucking shit, dude.
Yeah, Bert told me about that 2 years ago because he was on. He was the guy that did all the military technical advising on that Chris Pine movie with that Ben Foster.
Oh yeah.
So he was like, yeah, Ben Foster's in this movie about a boxer that came out of the Holocaust. It's like he should probably win an Academy Award for it, but unfortunately,
it's
they've
weird,
done
man.
nothing to promote it.
Wow, dude.
Like I haven't seen it anywhere. The only reason I even fucking know about it is because my buddy who worked with Ben was there.
Yeah.
Ross is telling me about the film.
I
and I'm
called
like, is that
you.
even? I said, and he goes, dude, it's already out. I've already watched it. I'm working with Ben, and all I could think about, and I'm just so grateful I hadn't, because I was just like, dude, when is this thing going to come out? Because I knew from what you had said, I was like, this thing's going to be incredible for him.
It should
and he's
win.
such a good actor.
And I watched the film. It's so good. It's on HBO Max right now. It was dumped. They've never promoted it. No, nothing. That is the hardest, one of the hardest, I would say, performances of all time because he had to lose so much weight and then bulk up, or vice versa. I don't know how they shot it.
So what he said that he had to, he lost 60 pounds to go shoot the film. And he said staying in that place, I was just like, how difficult? And he said, I surrounded my room with actual Holocaust victim photos. And he said it was kind of easy to kind of.
Well, he's got some family members that were back there as
Yeah,
well, so
right,
it's not too
right.
hard for him. I mean, not that it's not too hard to do that, but not too hard to find photos and shit.
But again, we're talking about dedication,
Yeah.
right? And then he said once in the middle of the film he took, and I could be wrong, but I feel like it was 2 to 3 weeks that he took off, and he had to put 50 pounds back on of straight muscle to do the boxing aspect of it.
Because he was big when he did the boxing scenes. Yeah, so that makes sense. Because it's two different people to the point where I thought it was CGI'd. So when
Oh,
he
wow.
was that thin, I was like, well, they fucking CGI'd it.
well, what was
Doesn't that suck that you? And I don't mean, but doesn't that
go
suck
ahead.
that with technology that you kind of don't
Yeah.
know if it's an actor's really kind of.
Yep. Like I watched my kids like the Avengers shit. I'm sure yours
Yeah,
do
of
as
course.
well.
I do.
When
I
they
like the
did the
Avengers,
young RDJ on screen, and it looked like him from the '80s, and I was like, oh, it's that
That's
easy.
where we are.
well, I mean,
Or when we saw Star Wars and the dude is dead and he's in the movie.
Oh yeah.
yeah, okay.
Still furious at Chris Evans, by the way, for not cutting off part of his shins, getting it reattached, and losing 200 pounds for pre-anabolic steroid Captain America.
I mean, yeah, so the canon is that he wasn't a small, skinny kid. He was a fat piece of shit.
No. He was a tiny, but Chris Evans should have done that physically.
Oh, yeah.
I'm tired of the CGI bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Get your fucking legs sawed off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Technology's there. They can put it back
They
on.
can do it. They can do it, Chris.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true.
Gattaca style? Wasn't that the film where?
Fuck yeah, it was.
Gattaca was dope.
I love that movie.
That's
It's such
like-
a great depiction of the
If it,
future.
I don't understand how that movie didn't win every fucking award that came out. To be honest,
My question,
it's
real
two
quick.
like fucking hitters, right? Jude Law and Ethan Hawke, like two fucking serious
That are great
dudes.
in the
Oh yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
both, and it's a great fucking story that's based on a real piece of art, but it's a reimagining of it. But it doesn't intrude on the original piece of art. It's so good, and nobody fucking gave a fuck about.
Well, I
that
think
movie.
Matrix had come out right before that, and it was kind of compared to Matrix,
Maybe.
and it was like
That's the same
eh.
thing that happened with the Thin Red Line and
Platoon.
Saving Private Ryan.
Or
Yeah.
Saving Private
yeah,
Ryan.
yeah, yeah.
The
because
Thin Red
every-
Line made like $4 million. I mean, bombs.
and it is so beautiful. It's so good, that film. Question though, why do we not have a podcast where we just talk about film?
We can, yeah, for
We've
sure.
had- we
I mean,
definitely have.
I'm
the
just. I'm.
technology.
Are you ready to quit?
I just don't understand why you haven't hired me to come on and we just do a film podcast.
well, if you're ready to quit, you can come on out to Austin. We'll do it.
Oh, is it
we can get
required?
deep
Does
into
it require that I have to quit my life?
Your
No, we have
Zoom is terrible.
Yeah, you get.
You're on
get,
a
I don't
farm.
have.
You
I don't
live
have
on a farm.
signal.
get Elon
Signal
Musk
on the
internet,
farm.
and then we can do it.
Yeah.
Just get a fucking.
Beef up your
SpaceX
internet.
thing.
Last time you were on, we were doing a sports show, I think.
And I just went off.
It was
like via
robot
satellite,
style.
1980s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of that crazy shit that he did for that, he deserves the Academy Award for it. I don't know that he'll get it because
I don't think anyone's even talking about the film, unfortunately, and it's just a shame. And I don't know how. I mean, look, trying to have for a film to have eyes on it when there's so much content out there. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but you're so overwhelmed. I find that I scroll through for 30 minutes, and I'm too tired to even watch anything and go to bed.
Yeah,
a lot of people are.
you have to choose. Here's the secret I've learned as an adult over the last couple of years. Now with there's so much content. Choose what you're going to watch before you make your food. Even if you ordered it, before you put it on
Right.
the actual plate,
life
choose
hack.
first, because otherwise you're going to sit there for 20 minutes and then get pissed off and put The Office on and eat your food. You know what I mean?
For me, it's Seinfeld, but
Yeah.
yes.
And
yes,
even like with Lethal Weapon, the reason why I was pissed when it ended was it was an 8 o'clock show. I could watch it with my kids, and I enjoyed it. I physically enjoyed it, but it was short enough to where you're not getting into a full movie every night. Like Jessie, is she still here? Is she back there?
She moved.
She cannot do a movie anymore. She's like, dude, how long is this? I'm good. Even with Stranger Things, the new season, every episode was like an hour 20, hour 40.
Well,
on
that's
that.
why I love Fleabag, and The Bear is half hour.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, that's what was great about working with Ray McKinnon on Rectify, is some episodes would be an hour and 15 minutes, some episodes would be 30 minutes, right? And it was maybe not 30 minutes, but closer to 40. But he was always adamant about, let's just tell the best story, and let's not worry about filling time necessarily, right? Because sometimes that's when it becomes filler. And I'm an advocate for this half-hour drama. I think I think it can just punch you in the face. And again, none of us have time to, like you said, sit down and commit to The Irishman for 3.5 hours.
Dude, that was a 2-sitting one for me.
Oh, it was
Maybe
3 for me,
Yeah.
3 for
I had to
me,
pause
yeah.
it and then keep the time
Yeah.
code. It was like, where was it?
I was a fan, but it was just, again, it's just with family and
But you know that's what sank Netflix essentially, and they're all done making that shit. So they're
Well, I
like,
don't know.
we're good.
They just made The Gray Man. They spent $300 million fucking dollars.
But that
on
was that was before.
Stop it.
Yeah,
That's what they
yeah.
spent on that film.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you guys watch it?
Yeah.
Oh, you did? I didn't watch it. I haven't watched it. Was it good?
It's like Six Underground with Ryan Reynolds. Like, there's a lot of entertaining action and shit. It's got a little bit more narrative than Six Underground does, but I would not have spent $3 million on that film. I don't know where.
$300 million?
I don't $300 million. Yeah, I don't know where it went. To be honest, it's like if you see a Michael Bay movie, I know exactly where that money went.
I know 60 went to the actors. So that was Gosling's biggest paycheck.
That's
I think it was
fine.
Chris Pine's biggest
That's
paycheck.
fine. Like
Chris Pine was at.
Or no,
not
I'm sorry,
Pine,
Chris Evans.
Chris
yeah.
Evans was actually really entertaining in that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
it's
the
funny.
character that he was playing.
And so was I
love Gosling always. Yeah,
he plays glib very well. Like, that's a really good talent to have. That's what the kid from Shameless does as well. He plays glib really well, so he's probably going to have a great career in Hollywood. But yeah, I don't understand where all the money went after $60 million. Where's the rest?
Because this fight sequences were great. I loved like that first one that they did.
Mm-hmm.
That opening scenes were fantastic, and Gosling just killed it.
Yep.
But I'm like you, it was definitely almost action overload. And I was hoping for a little bit more story.
Well, you know why, right?
I've read all
those
the books.
action movies worldwide do the best, and Netflix is in every single country except for like China and India.
Well, that's it.
So that's
Well,
all they're trying
China
to
and
do.
India is like a fucking half the world.
It is, and if they can, by the way, if they can break into there,
Yeah.
they said that's where the stock will explode.
Well, the
They
only
just
way they're
can't
going to
get
be able
in
to do
there.
that is if they stop talking shit about China completely.
Well,
Like,
I
you're
don't-
not allowed to have any content that says anything negative about China.
There's also just a ton of other crazy restrictions that keeps films out of there. That I don't know. I agree. The action is, and definitely, obviously, as it relates to making more money overseas. Any story you can tell without subtitles, that's a win.
Yep, because they're always worried about that as well, of reading it at the bottom of the screen.
Because all I kept thinking, I was like, Gosling had to do zero research. Like, there was no work.
He just showed up
had to
and
go into
played
learning
himself.
dialogue. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it was like Born Identity. It was
Yeah.
just running.
Like, he
jumping,
does
and fighting.
glib. He and Ryan Reynolds both do like kind of an Ryan Reynolds is more of an energetic nihilist glib kind of situation, and Gosling's more of like a I don't know, like disinterested glib. You know what I mean?
He's
but
just sexy.
it's
Let's
good.
just be
It
honest.
works. But for this character, like, I actually read all the books years ago when I was in the Army. Not anywhere fucking close
That's what I was going
to this dude. You know what I mean? It's like the story is about a dude who was selected, one, because of his situation and skill and proclivity for violence and stuff like that, but also because he kept his fucking mouth shut. He didn't talk to anybody. You know what gray man means? It means I'm not white, I'm not black, I don't blend, I don't stand out, I blend in, I'm gray. Like, I wear normal clothes, I have a normal fucking face, I have normal facial hair stuff. Like, you're not walking around with a fucking popped collar. And no offense to Homeboy, but he is playing fucking Ken in the Ken and Barbie movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's too good looking to play that role. I know that sounds weird, but that role should have gone to somebody who was not very good looking.
A dirtbag, dude.
Yeah.
Just a fucking dirtbag, you know? I mean, that's all there's. Look, we all know the Giovanni Ribisi's of the world, you know? Just a classic little fucking dirtbag running around. Since we're talking about films, let's celebrate your whole career. Let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah,
let's do it. Let's do it.
All right.
For the people.
How about another hard seltzer?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
grab a hard seltzer. I'm going to bring up your IMDb. Matter of fact, I'll do sponsors real quick while you grab it, okay? First and foremost, ghostbed.com/Drinkin Bros. 30% off everything in the entire store with the promo code Drinkin Bros at checkout. If you want the pillows, the sheets, the mattresses, the adjustable bases,
Thanks, buddy.
the weighted blankets, everything, pile it in the cart, fill it all the way to the top. 30% off with the promo code Drinkin Bros at checkout. 40% off the bundle package. That is the adjustable base and the mattress combined together. 50% off the 3D Matrix mattress. All the deals are there. And then at the bottom of the screen when you check out, they've got a 60-month pay-as-you-go program. No interest there. If you have decent credit, check that box, and you can walk out of there with a brand-new bedroom set for about $25 a month, which is a fun thing. I also talked to Rich when we had the OnlyFans, the Boston Nurse OnlyFans on the show. They said they would send her a mattress. So if you're following Allie Ray and she starts fucking on one of those mattresses, fucking her husband on one, know that Ghostbed was fine with it. They're fine with everything we say, including any Casey Anthony jokes. They don't care. They just want to sell you a nice, comfortable mattress to make love on. And whether that's with a man or a woman we don't fucking judge you, okay? We don't. We never have. We never will. And we don't kink shame here. Next up, we got BubsNaturals.com. It's a serious one. God damn it. We get serious. This hat here, what do you think of this hat? Give him an honest opinion of this hat.
What do you mean give him an honest opinion about this?
Give him a real, do you like the hat?
It seems like it would dry quickly.
It does. That's the only purpose for this hat. But it looks ridiculous, and I can ball it up and put it in my pocket, so I haven't stopped wearing it for about 2 months now.
Yeah. It's for runners.
And drive it like you stole it.
Drive it like you stole
I believe
That's
it's
from
like
Bubs
trying to
Naturals.
motivate runners, but the only reason that I will ever run is towards the sound of gunfire. You know what I mean? So
That's the greatest answer I've ever heard.
It is, and it fits with the sponsor. If you're running towards the sound of gunfire, make sure you got a little bit of MCT oil powder in your coffee when you start your day. It's going to make you run faster. It's going to help you focus, provide energy.
all the food you eat, all the supplements you take, if you have a good MCT oil in your body, in your bloodstream, then it bonds better to your blood. That's it.
Yep, that's
Right?
it.
So you don't have to eat as much bullshit that you don't want, like green vegetables and all that stupid shit. You can eat more meat.
Yep.
And just take supplements and then take this stuff and you'll be fine.
And then the collagen protein, I take it. That's why I'm only 33 years old, but I take it.
Collagen,
I
along with
take
HGH,
it.
is one of the chemicals that keeps you looking young.
Exactly.
That's all
So
you
look
need
at
to know
this.
about that.
Look at
That's all you
this,
need to know.
dude. This is why. Go to BubsNaturals.com. Use the promo code Drinkin Bros at checkout. You're going to get 20% off. This was obviously a tribute to Glenn Bub Doherty, who laid down his life saving Americans in Benghazi. His call sign in the Navy was Bub. His buddies did this company. 10% of the proceeds go to the Glenn Doherty Foundation. And on Veterans Day, 100% of the proceeds go to the foundation. So please go to BubsNaturals.com. Use promo code Drinkin Bros for 20% off at checkout. You already use this stuff anyways. You might as well buy it from a veteran-owned company. Last but not least, we got HardAFSeltzer.com. We're shipping to 41 states. I used to say 42. We're live in Tennessee. We are in 50 stores in Tennessee. And in the first week, we are sold out of 11 already. And they just reordered 42 cases or something like that yesterday. We greatly appreciate it. It is normal price. However, if you get it shipped to your house, every cent of that goes back into opening up a new state. A new state will open up next month, and you will be able to get it for regular price. In the meantime, even us in Texas, we get it shipped to our house, 8%, no carbs, no sugars, no gluten. If you give a shit about that, and it's 8%, you're getting fucking rocked as we are today. Let's go back into your history here, okay? We're going to start with Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Like, I didn't even recognize you as Buffy the whole time until, like, I met you in New Orleans, I think, for the first time.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, you're fucking
It's Buffy.
I thought it was
It's Buffy.
I thought it was a chick, but
Yeah, no,
it's
it's
weird,
Buffy.
man.
It's
Yeah.
Buffy.
Some of the best work I ever did.
How was it? Do you remember it?
It was the very first acting job I'd ever had. And I mean, I had not.
Were you fully in LA at the time?
I fully. So I didn't act in high school or anything like that. So I moved to LA, and I'd been there for 3 months, and I had signed this agent, Ruth Deverin, who was 82, I think, when I signed with her. I'm not exaggerating. She was down by Casa Vega.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so deep in the valley.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she sent me out. One of the first auditions I ever went on was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And she, my pager went off because this is circa 1997, 98. And I was playing basketball down in Venice. And I have, kind of curly, kind of crazy hair, and it was kind of so. And I'm like, oh crap, I look like crazy. And she's like, it's okay, just she's like, go in there. You're gonna go and you're gonna read this material. It's gonna be great, and you're gonna love it. And I was like, okay. So I go in and I auditioned, and I don't know what I'm doing. It's really the first time I've kind of done anything in the acting world, but I knew I was wanting to pursue it, and I booked the job. So I get the script. And I'm so stoked. I've told everybody I'm going to be Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I'm reading through the script, and I can't find my character's name. And I go back to and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start from page 1. And I realize, I'm only in the first 3 pages. I'm in the teaser, and then I die. And I'm like, it's okay.
Rodney Munson.
Rodney Munson, yes. Yeah. The Inca Mummy Girl, I think was the name of the episode. Yes, indeed. So I get to set, terrified. I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do this because I have no frame of reference. But I'm feeling pretty good about myself, thinking, well, you know what, Crawford, you're here.
Yeah.
And maybe you're just a natural at this, right?
That always works out.
And so I'm on set, and I'm there early because they bring me in none of the other actors are there, and I'm there, and I'm kind of sitting, and the guys are bringing in this dummy, and it's got this crazy kind of curly hair, and I was like, oh, look at that thing. He goes, yeah, we've been trying to figure out a way to use this damn thing, and I'm like, oh, I realize that I'm that dead mummy. And that this mummy girl is going to suck the life out of me and turn me into that. So I only booked the job because my hair already looked like this mummy dummy mannequin thing that they already had in a warehouse that they just go, oh, this fucking guy. Perfect. And he doesn't have to say much. So, yeah, it was not my skills that got me that job.
Now, can we break down the life sucking?
Yeah. Was there actual contact?
Well, here's the thing.
Oh, you've got the footage.
Oh, my God.
There it is. Pop it up. Pop it up. Is it on screen? Oh, are we not allowed to play it because they'll ding us? On YouTube? Got it. Wow, dude. Play that one more time for him. Look at
So you
that,
seem to have
dude.
And I've got on
broken
fake
her-
braces in this.
Did they put those on?
They did. They sent me to the guy who actually made the teeth for Interview with the Vampire.
Wow.
And he made me these fake braces, and there she is.
Yeah.
Oh, eyes open. She's going to suck the life out of me. The problem was this plate was kind of held together. I had to hold the plate together because it wasn't actually glued and make it look like it broke. And I'm like, well, this is the biggest horse shit ever. I can't make this thing. So they were not pleased with my skill set.
Did you have a line? Did you end up with
I
any
did.
dialogue?
I think if I remember, the young lady comes up to me, and I remember I had to hiss. There was like a thing where I'm supposed to growl at her, and they want me to show the braces, and I was like, oh, this is challenging. So I'm trying to like hiss at her, and then, man, what were those lines?
If you can remember right now.
If I could just remember, she says, I don't know, but it was some kind of like sarcastic thing because I remember I did.
That writer, by the way,
bad.
is a 4-time Oscar winner now. Do you know that?
The writer of that episode?
I just made that up.
Okay. 'Cause I was like, buddy, the leaps and bounds he made in his career from that episode.
We'll skip One Blood Planet. I don't know One Blood Planet.
You can't miss One Blood Planet because I shot that movie. That was actually the very first thing I ever booked. And it was the guy who was renting the manager of my building in Koreatown on 9th and Grammar. He goes, hey, my buddy's making a movie across the street. And I was like, oh. He goes, he needs an actor. You want to be? I'm like, yeah. So I go over there. And he's like, I just want you to go meet him. So I go. And I meet the guy, Jerry Decker, and I'm like, hey, Jerry, and he's like, I'm making this movie, and it's about these blood-sucking kind of zombie kind of thing. So I was like, oh, great, and he goes, you want to do it? I'm like, heck yeah, I want to do it. He goes, great, here you go, here's the pages. So he hands me, 12, 13 pages of material. He goes, I'll be ready to, 15 minutes? I was like, well, what? Ready to do what? And he's like, shoot. And I was like, what the fuck? And he's like, so I've got the material in the floor that I'm reading this stuff. I'm literally looking down, smoking, and reading it and trying to come up and connect and just reading and he actually released that film during COVID at some French festival. He turned it all into French subtitles, changed it all into
20 years later.
20 years later, changed all the dialogue. It's black and white, and changed it into did voiceover with all French actors and then subtitled it and took it to some film festival.
No
Just 'cause
fucking way.
I had fans that reached out to me during the thing.
What a bizarre story.
I
He
mean,
makes
that was,
documentaries now.
Really?
That's his primary thing.
yeah,
About
that was,
penguins and
I had a VHS of that movie. My grandfather made fun of me for that movie until the day he died.
That's great.
One Blood Planet. Are you gonna go make your One Blood Planet?
Now, next up is A Walk to Remember, and this is where we met. And I was super grateful because I moved to the town without any friends and all that stuff. I think one from Ohio State. I had a couple from Ohio State, but nobody actor-wise in the town. I'd finished The New Guy. You were doing A Walk to Remember, and The New Guy was with your ex-fiancée at the time. And she was like, oh, my God, you're going to love this guy, and you guys are fucking great, and you're going to be best friends. I was from Georgia. You were from Alabama. We ended up becoming best friends after this because you do these press tours, and you go and do all the parties and all that shit. Well, I didn't have any friends because you're not allowed to bring anybody, right? Unless you were famous or you had a movie out or whatever it was. And so I was grateful that you were going through this at the exact same time I was, so you and I got to do all the fucking cool shit together.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a fucking blast. And your movie came out first, so we went and saw it in the theaters. It was, who was it? Mandy Moore,
Shane West,
Al
West, Thompson.
Yeah, Al. Yeah, all those guys.
Yeah.
I put Al in Range 15.
He's
fucking
so great.
5 years ago.
I just saw him last week.
He's the best, and people still love this movie. This still plays all the time. By the way, yeah. Was it a Christian movie?
There was definitely it's Nicholas Sparks, right? It's one of his novels, who did The Notebook, and so it definitely had a faith base to it. But I think just when you're dealing with a young teenager dying of some terminal illness, it pulls at all the heartstrings, right? So it definitely kind of checked all those boxes at that time. And yeah, I remember Sunny introduced us, so she's like, I love this guy. I'm like, I'm sure I'm going to love this guy. I hate everybody. She's like, no, it's from Georgia. And I was like, well, I hate the Bulldogs. And she's like, no, Johnson. And then you said something about Hardee's and NASCAR within the first couple of minutes, and I remember we just laughed our asses off the rest of the night. And
it was about the ashtrays, dude.
Fell madly in love.
The Hardee's ashtrays is what they used to, as kids.
The fold-up ashtrays.
Fold-up ashtrays, and they were like, hey, you got to make a Christmas ornament for your parents. Put your picture in there, a piece of yarn around it, and then you're hanging up the ashtray. My mom still has the Hardee's ashtray hanging up on the Christmas tree. So
God bless.
You're welcome. Next up was Swim Fan, and this was a phase where we were doing a bunch of teen movies.
We were in that place, right? You just do.
It was a blast.
I mean, look, I did Walter Remember. I auditioned for it while I was shooting a Walter Remember in North Carolina. Went straight to New York, shot that. I left Wilmington and went straight to Manhattan and shot that film. And yes, that was very exciting. And I was like, hey, this is how this is going. And I wanted to kind of transition and get out of kids' films. And then I think The Great Raid was the next movie that I was offered.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that now because I read for The Great Raid as well in a different character, but. To me, there you go.
Look at that.
Look at that, dude.
Oh,
Jesse.
Swedish preteen body.
Yeah, dude. Look at that. Look at that. Shout out to Alamy. Don't fucking sue us for that. But with The Great Raid, I had read for that as well. Different character. I forgot who ended up getting it. But I thought it was going to win an Oscar. Tell the audience what it's like when you get a script that good and you think it's going to win all the awards and then it doesn't. Because there was a part of you at the time, I remember, where you were gone for 6 months. All these movies were coming out at that time. And
that's right. Swim Fan came out while I was in Australia.
It fucked you because you couldn't come back and audition. You're stuck on this movie. And then the decapitation happened. Yeah.
I will say that this industry and I would imagine this with anything. I've only pursued the entertainment, but it's ups and downs, right, and full of a lot of bumps. So yes, I read for this movie. Bonnie Timmerman was casting, and John Dahl had just come off of Rounders, which I was such a huge fan of, and I desperately wanted it. And I had read Ghost Soldiers, which was kind of loosely based on this film. Both books, Ghost Soldiers and The Great Raid, were based on the Bataan Death March. So I felt that there was going to be kind of like what you're saying. I said, man, this checks all the boxes for
of an Oscar movie.
Yeah, And I was trying to decide between that and Cold Mountain, what movie I was going to go do next. And John Dahl called me. I was in Alabama with my family, and I was fishing, and he called my cell phone, And John Dahl was just like, hey, I just love this about your performance and this on your audition, and I just really want to offer you this movie, and I'd love for you to come do my movie. So it's one of those kind of things where I was in a great position where the director was kind of talk me into it. And he
But
goes,
you turned down Cold Mountain?
I turned down Cold Mountain.
Oscar-winning Cold Mountain.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
the Ben Foster role?
My career is basically just poor judgment, an example of my poor judgment as an artist. But I said yes to John, and I think what's his name ended up doing the character that I read for, who ended up the guy. What's his name from Sons of Anarchy?
Oh yes,
Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah.
Charlie. Yeah, Charlie ended up doing
he
the
blew
film.
up from that.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
Made a lot of money from that.
Yeah,
that could have been your money.
Yeah, maybe. So I chose John Dahl's film, and but he got me because he said, he goes, I see this guy like the Barry Pepper role in Saving Private Ryan, which we all love the Barry Pepper character.
Yeah.
In Saving Private Ryan.
And since you brought it up, by the way, we cock teased this the other day, and I said I was going to ask you on the show today.
God, we have so many good stories.
Barry Pepper.
Segue.
All I wanted to hear him say was, you reach over, flick up that toggle. It's the only time I feel alive. You got him on the phone to say it.
So I'm making a movie. I'm doing a movie called Unknown. And again, this is one of those films. It's got Jim Caviezel, Greg Kinnear.
Jesus Christ.
Literally. Peter Stormare. Like, it was such a great, great cast. And I'm doing this movie. And Barry Pepper's in it. And the film, was it the Dale Earnhardt story? Every time I reach over and flip that toggle, it's the only place in the world where I feel right. And I said, look, I got to, I go up to Barry and I go, hey, man, you know, my buddy is, he's a huge fan. I mean, like a huge fan. And it's, the phone's ringing. And I knew Ross would, because I'd said, Ross, don't answer your phone. And it's ringing. I'm trying to tell Barry, I'm like, hey, so, you know, when he answers his voicemail, if you could just kind of leave that line from your character, you know, the one they're playing on the trailers on ESPN all the time. And I extend the phone, you know, and I'm waiting for him to kind of say it, and I'll hold the phone for him. And he just looked at me and was like, man, that was like 3 movies ago. And just walked away. And it's like, beep.
And all I heard,
hey, I'll call you back.
All I heard in the background was, I remember the fucking lines from that movie. And it was Barry Pepper.
He did. I didn't remember that. It was like 3 movies ago. I don't even fucking remember those lines. And I'm like, well, I can quote it for you. Okay, so now you're walking away now. Sorry, Ross. Bye. Yeah.
Barry Pepper.
Barry Pepper, ladies and gentlemen. So John Dahl's like, hey, I see this is the Barry Pepper role, which, you know, is very exciting for a 22-year-old kid. Thinking about getting to go play that kind of character, and then this is where he got me. He goes, you know, it's written. It's the character's name is Jackson. He goes, I think that's Barry Pepper's name in Saving Private Ryan. I think his name's Jackson. He goes, so I was thinking, you had mentioned in the audition that your grandfathers are both in World War II. I said, yes, sir. You know, he said, well, why don't we change the characters to one of your grandfather's last names?
Oh boy. Really? He pulled out all the stops, didn't he?
All the stops.
Yeah, it worked.
All the stops. And
you couldn't say no at that point. You're going to name it after my grandfather?
It was all I could do to hold it together.
Yeah.
All I could do to hold it together, much less say no. So I said, you know, with a lump in my throat, I said, sir, I'd be honored, you know, and I'd love it to be Private Aldridge. Mm-hmm. Which is my hero, my papa. That's his last name. My mother's maiden name. So I go to do this. I get to Australia, and I'm getting ready for this 2-week boot camp. And I get the script, and I open it up, and I'm like, they're like, there's a new draft. And I'm like, hell yeah. And I'm talking, my character had such dope scenes, and he was the one that was kind of the sensitive guy that, you know, that character in war that you love, that we all kind of, as an audience who's never kind of served, that we can relate to, because we can imagine it would be horrifying in that situation. And the guy who, kind of Jim Caviezel's character in A Thin Red Line, right? So he was this very sympathetic character, and he had these beautiful scenes. So I'm going through to read the new script, and I'm in Queensland, Australia, pretty good far away from home, Alabama, and I'm reading this thing, and my fucking character's gone. Oof. And I'm calling my agents. I'm like, guys, and they're just like, this happens, you know, just go to boot camp. We're going to work on it. We're going to figure it out by the time you get back. And boot camp was tough. I think by day 3, Max Martini and I were sneaking out, hitchhiking into town and drinking and eating burgers, and then being, you know, pissed, hungover the next morning trying to do PT and so forth. And it was rough, because I just felt like I was trapped. And like you said, the movie was coming out. You know, I had Swim Fan getting ready to come out, which opened #1 in the U.S., which was, you know, for a little teen movie, was like a good thing. And I go to the producers, and Marty Katz is a producer at Miramax, and I said, hey, man, I'm not in this movie. I got to get out, right? And he goes, you know what it would cost for us to replace you? I was like, no, it wouldn't be much. You're not paying me a whole lot. You know? I was like, yeah, well, he goes, just the time and to train someone. He goes, I'm going to tell you something, Clayne. He said, if this is going to be a problem, I'll release it in the Variety tomorrow that you've just been a pain in the ass and that you're difficult to work with. He goes, and if you don't think I will, why don't you ask Wes Bentley? Because he had just done 4 Feathers with Wes, and I guess Wes was having an issue with drugs at that time. And he had kind of outed him, right? So I'm in this situation, this 22-year-old kid, and I'm like, okay, crap, I got to do this movie. So to be there for that long, for 6 months, and yes, I lost a big window there. and then the movie was caught up in an acquisition when Disney and Miramax was going through that whole thing, right? And It and Brothers Grimm, I think, were two of the movies that just got dumped. And how does it feel? You know, it was definitely disheartening for me. And I said, I'm done with the studio system. I'm 22. I'm a dumb kid. I don't know what I'm doing. But I said, I'm going to go straight into indies only. And that's when you and I think a couple years later, were at Sundance with
Wrist Cutters. So you were there with Wrist Cutters, a love story. I was there with Darwin Awards.
And Still City. I had Still City up there that year.
Yeah. And we both vowed to never go there, and so we actually had films there. And then it just so happened it was the same exact year. Now that was disappointing for me because I got caught out of one of my biggest things it was me and Winona Ryder for like 8 minutes, and it opened up the movie. Right, flew the whole family out there, everything. Right, and I was like, this is gonna be amazing. Let's fucking rage. And then I run into the director on the streets, and he goes, "Oh hey, I forgot to tell you, so that opening scene with Winona's cut." And I was like, And I only had, I think, one other scene. It was with Alessandro Nivola, who's one of the greatest actors on the planet. And that was fine, but the whole fucking movie was a disaster. Chris Penn died the night before the premiere, Sean Penn's brother. And then they wanted us to do press about his death and everything else. And I was like, oh, my God, this is fucking awful. And, yeah.
But what's not awful
was the parties.
And I think we went to the AT&T party when we first got into town. We still had altitude sickness. We were we didn't know we had altitude sickness until we started doing tequila shots. But then it started, we were like, oh my God, I'm really hammered really quickly. And you got to tell the story about when we went into the bathroom.
Well, I thought I went into the bathroom. I get a tap on my shoulder, and it turns out I was in the coat closet, pissing on every celebrity's coat.
That was at the end of the night. That was at the end of the night. Let's go to when we first walked into that party. Is that not that's where you ran into that's where
Sting.
The Sting.
Yeah, I ran into Sting. Yeah.
And Sting.
Did you ask him why it's not Stung?
And Trudy Styler. Here's the thing.
Like
so
after 65, after he retires, does it become Stung? How does that work?
I'm not sure what I said to him, but the beauty of it was it
the kid that was next to us in the stall that goes, "Hey, I started writing music because of you, man."
Yeah.
I started writing. He goes, "Don't blame your shitty songwriting on me, you little fuck." And then walked out of my.
That's really funny.
I was like, "Oh, that's the greatest."
It was the best.
That's really funny.
It was the fucking best. But what happened was the altitude sickness. They tell you about it, and then you don't really know what's going on. And I was like, "Oh, that'll never happen to me." And then it happened. So walking into that place, I was gone. And I'm talking to Sting and Trudy Styler as if they're my best friends in the whole world. We're having these elaborate conversations about life and everything else. I have no idea what's going on. I end up pissing in the coat closet all over every celebrity's coat. You put me in a cab and got me home, and you're like, "Hey, do you got altitude
But from
sickness?"
Sting's perspective, he was probably, I would say 80% chance he was on mushrooms, right?
Yeah,
Maybe.
Back then,
maybe, something.
like,
Maybe,
all they did
maybe.
was do drugs and have tantric sex all the time.
Correct. That was the exact
That's the whole
period it
thing.
was.
Yeah.
So what happened was I woke up in the morning.
Was it 2007?
I think so, yeah. But I woke up in the morning, and that was the day, I'll never forget it. Kobe dropped 81 that day. So we're all watching that. And then my phone starts blowing up. And they're like, "Hey, you're on Entertainment Tonight." There's all my friends from high school, everything else. And they were like, I'm like, "All right, cool. What the fuck?" And they were like, "I didn't know you were best friends with Sting. Like, how do you know Sting?" And I was like, I don't remember. And I flipped on Entertainment Tonight, and there's just me, talking to Sting and Trudy Styler for like 2 minutes in the background of this Entertainment Tonight segment about it. And I had to lie. I was like, "Yeah, we're best friends."
Yeah.
I was like, we were talking about where we're going to go skiing and things like that. And I was like, you wouldn't get it. You fucking pores.
Yeah, we're both going up to Deer Valley tomorrow. It's
Yeah.
gonna be rad.
But-
But so funny about Kobe, I forgot, and that game wasn't televised when he dropped that. You know what's amazing is that was such an iconic moment with Toby. I mean, with Kobe dropping that many points in a game, and then I was up there in 2020 when the helicopter crashed, and we're the same.
No fucking way.
So the fact that two major events, like for me, is at Sundance, Kobe was kind of a part of. You know,
That's wild.
Isn't that wild?
That's goddamn. That's
yeah,
crazy.
we're on
I mean,
the
what's going to
sideline.
happen if you go back?
I know. Is he going to come back to life?
Yeah.
Maybe. Jess
hope
had
so.
said something about that. you
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Kobe's going to come back to life at the
Yeah.
next Sundance.
Yeah. He's going to be walking the streets.
But then as we go along through all of this, we had the Barnes Brothers on MTV, which was my favorite show that never went. Didn't get past the pilot on that. Jericho was a fucking banger. People love that show. Then the CSI run. You did every CSI show on the planet.
Look, I started having. You can see where my career, where I started having children, right? Where it's no longer about just trying to go play these great characters. You're just like, oh, crap, I've got to make money to provide and feed these little creatures, So yes,
but doing that along the way, and I said the same thing. I said, hey, dude, this will lead to something massive, and then you got on 24.
Yeah, but even before that, The Perfect Host is one of the most underrated movies of all time.
Oh, 100%.
So it's him and the gayer dude
on Frasier.
On Frasier.
Yeah.
David, whatever the fuck his
David
name is.
Hyde Pierce.
He's a great actor. He's really good.
And he's a really nice person.
The only thing anybody knows about him is his work on Frasier, but he's actually a really good fucking actor.
Great
If you watch
actor,
some of
and
his
he's
other
great in
stuff-
that
and New
movie.
Yorkers, right? Because his Broadway work is just phenomenal.
Broadway.
Yeah.
Regular
he's
folks don't
just,
know
but
about
you're
that.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, but The Perfect Host is like he's a police lieutenant that's just out of his fucking
I love
mind.
that you know this movie.
Oh yeah,
Everybody does.
in the best way.
A lot of people do, dude. That was
There
one
for
of
a
those
while,
movies
only
that
my mom and dad had watched that movie.
he was so creepy in it, and then it was pretty much a two-hander. It was you and him throughout that whole movie.
Yeah, it's basically the two of you. Yeah, but it's like Dexter kind. Well, there was the other lady that was on the outside that was kind of a protagonist as well. But
Yeah, my girlfriend who
Yeah.
kind of set the whole thing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that that was originally a play. It was an Australian director, and I that film, because there was a moment there where I kind of quit acting. I had kids, and I just wasn't enjoying the process. And I went to Peru with my buddy. It was Sonny. Sonny calls me. He's like, "Hey, I'm doing a Peru trip. We're going to shoot a documentary." And he's like, I got $10,000 I can give you if you want to come and just hang out. And I was like, well, what's the point of it? What's the point of the documentary? He's like, it's kind of like a Super Size Me that just come out, He goes, but instead of eating McDonald's every day, we're gonna stop eating sugar. There's gonna be no caffeine, no drugs, no alcohol. We're kind of like a Purif, essentially. I was like, okay. I go down to Peru, and it turns into it's just us on dirt bikes, and we end up taking a ton of ayahuasca and going down this hole, which I didn't know what ayahuasca was at this time.
Yeah.
They just kept calling it, we're going to go do the medicine. I was like, oh, I'll take whatever medicine, I'll try some fun stuff, and it's like a Mountain Dew bottle that the top's been cut off a 20 ounce. I'm drinking this green stuff.
Oh my god, that's
buddy.
not the way.
In
to
the
do
mountains of Ollantaytambo, I did this after being in a Peruvian hospital in Cusco for having parasites and salmonella because I'd eaten some chicken I'd bought off the side of the road in Puno.
Smart.
I made that mistake in Puerto Rico a couple times.
Yeah. It smells so good.
Yeah.
We've
We've all
power
made the
bars.
mistake.
It's the trip from San Juan down to like the southern part, or to Rincon on the west side, and you're like, oh, that's like there's no fucking McDonald's out here. I got to do something.
And
I'm
it
hungry,
looks delicious.
goddammit.
It's on an open fire. It's hot. It's got to be good. Yeah,
But
no.
it's not.
Salmonella, parasites.
Yeah.
So I'd been and I had elephantitis, so my nuts had swollen up to like grapefruits. So I'm like having to set them on the gas tank, to
Is it
dry.
really that bad?
Buddy? It is that bad. The skin is completely taut.
Oh god, that does
And
not sound fun.
super painful.
Man.
Not a flattering look by any means. So yeah, I came back from that, and it was like I had this. I went through this awful trip, on ayahuasca, and kind of, refound myself in this weird way, and I came back, and I was like, so I started doing all those guest spots, and then it led to 24, which was one of those auditions where me and Mikey were the two guys that were auditioning for it.
Michael Raymond James.
And we were both actually reading for Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character. And it was the three of us, excuse me, and Freddie Prinze got it. But after the audition, the guys were like, hey, I don't think this is going to work, but there's something that we're going to bring you back on. And that's one of those kind of things you hear all the time. You're like, whatever. And they called me a couple weeks later, and I got to go work with Kiefer and do that job.
He was hot.
Yeah.
That might be like his brightest moment.
Kiefer?
Yeah, like mid 24.
Yeah.
Especially after the first two seasons, he was hot. And there's a story about you with Kiefer in a diner.
Sure is. Do you remember Dimples that night? Do we have a photo from that?
That was
Type
before.
in.
Yeah, it's in the.
Type
Here's the
in,
thing.
Wasn't it in
Kiefer
Var-
Sutherland, Clayne Crawford, and then Dimples.
It was in Variety, wasn't it? Or
No, it was
Page
in
6? Was it Page 6?
Us Weekly.
I was in Us.
So here's the thing.
Us Weekly is what it was.
I met Kiefer. This was before 24. So I met Kiefer. I was dating this girl named Ashley. And Ashley was good friends with Kiefer and a few other guys that I was a big fan of. And We went all out drinking the night before. It was Thursday night, so the next day was Good Friday, right? It was the Easter weekend, which Hollywood kind of shuts down. So Thursday night, we went to the Dollar Tree in Burbank, and we got absolutely shit-canned. And Kiefer left his car. I don't even remember how I got home that night. And the next morning, that Friday, Ashley's phone's lighting up, and it's Kiefer going, hey, I need to go get my car. Can you guys take me down there? So we're like, yeah, sure. So we go pick him up, and we take him down there to pick his car. And he's like, well, we're here. Should we grab a drink?
Yeah. You called me, and you're like, hey, dude, we're going to Dimples. And I was like, all right.
It's like 10:30 in the morning, so we start drinking. And he's like, oh, this place sucks. He's like, hold on. So he calls, and he's like talking to somebody. He's like, hey, let's go to Dimples. And I was like, oh, the karaoke bar in Burbank? He was like, bingo. So we go. It's not open. So Kiefer, the owner's opening the door up, getting us inside, right? And he's turning on lights and setting up the karaoke machine. And we proceed to drink and just get absolutely hammered. Well, it's Friday. So by that night, the whole place is packed. And I guess I'm assuming you're about to pull up a photograph.
Well, I don't know, Bob. Did you find it? Oh, you've got it?
You got
Yeah, I'm just better at life than he is.
There you go. Send it to, because this is one for the record books, and you're definitely going to want to see this.
I'll send it to the
I just want to say that Kiefer...
Before you see this picture, yes.
Let me just say that Kiefer is not only... His heart is so massive. He is such a wonderful human being. He thinks about others. No matter how hard he parties, when he shows up to work, that guy knows every single line. He knows what he's meant to do, and he does it with absolute precision. So I just want to say how much I love this guy.
For sure. Before we see this photo, obviously, because Kiefer used to come into Jesse's restaurant all the time. Was completely obliterated. Every story we have about him involves him drinking an entire bottle of whatever. He was a good tipper. There you go. Boom. So put that up on screen. That's from Dimples that night. And you were uncomfortable with male nudity at the time. He knew that and exploited your weakness.
So I'm not uncomfortable. Here's the situation.
The food had just come, and you're like, I'm going to pretend to keep eating.
Here's what happens, okay? So there had been a lot of mooning and ass showing throughout the day when this establishment was empty. At this point in the evening,
it was packed.
Kiefer had already, because Christian Slater had walked in. Okay, I'm a huge fan of Young Guns, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
So this was a big moment for me. Okay,
college,
so Christian walks in, and he's able to kind of bypass the line of the karaoke bar, and he gets right up front, and he sings New York, New York. And I'm sure you'll be able to find a photo of Christian Slater on stage singing New York, New York, and Kiefer runs up on stage and drops his pants and starts kind of dancing, showing his hiney to the crowd, to everyone's delight. And then he comes back to the table, and he sits down, and he keeps wanting to take his pants off. But what Kiefer was confused by is, if you see in the photo, the tablecloth is in our laps. So he's assuming the tablecloth is going down on the other side, right? And that this is a secret. What's happening?
No secret.
But it's no secret. And so what's happened is my buddy goes, hey, and I look, and everybody's camera phone is on. And so I turn, because I've got this massive handlebar mustache, and I just, so yeah, I was trying to get out of the
But there was nowhere to go.
There was nowhere to go. But again, I love that man dearly, and I'm grateful for that.
And that should be framed inside your house. That's
It
a piece that should live
The wife doesn't let me keep it in the house, but it is in the garage.
Yeah. And then you made a string of, shit, dude. You did the Glades. The Glades was great. Justified was fucking great.
Yeah, did you hook up with AJ on that? Because he played a cousin on Justified as well.
No,
I feel like you're probably up against AJ Buckley a lot.
We may have been. Like I said, I only met him at the golf tournament, and then we just realized that we had so many mutual friends. For me, I met Walt Goggins on that, because my first scene was I play like a nurse doctor, kind of doctoring him up.
After he gets shot in the chest. Right?
Yeah, it
in
was
season 1. Yeah,
it was just a good gig, man. Yeah. I was essentially, I was kind of working my way back into the system, because, like I told you, after the Great Raid, I just said forget Hollywood, not Hollywood, but I wanted to find a way to be able to perform and not have to. Because, man, when we were doing the Great Raid, like, Miramax sent out an executive every 2 weeks to give John all these ridiculous notes, and we're talking about the guy who made, again, Rounders was a great movie, and Last Seduction, and so I was trying to kind of get back into it, and this was kind of the path, doing these TV shows. And the Glades was honestly, when I booked that, and they said we're going to be shooting in Miami, that allowed me to go to my wife and say, hey, if I'm going to be shooting this series down in Florida, why don't we buy a farm in Alabama? Mm-hmm. It's an easier commute.
Yeah.
And we can have just a better quality of life for the kids. So the Glades didn't work out because, you know, my character was in prison the whole time, like most of my characters. And I was always behind glass on the fucking phone. And I was just like, guys, please let me out of this. So I kept begging them to let me out of the contract. They wouldn't. So when my off days, I'd fly to L.A. and audition for other stuff. And that's when I booked All Signs of Death with Alan Ball for HBO. Mm-hmm. And we went and shot a pilot. It didn't get picked up, but that's what led to Rectify.
Right.
And I was in Alabama, and Rectify shot in Atlanta, and it really kind of solidified that I didn't have to be in Los Angeles anymore to kind of do what it is that I love.
And it was a close commute from
2-hour drive from my farm to set.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that because they're like, "Oh shit, you're not your entire state over." No, it's 2-hour drive when you're good to go. Yeah,
and you can be in
Super
Nashville
easy.
in 2 hours. You can be in New Orleans in 5. And at that time, that the tax incentives hadn't been pulled out of New Orleans, so New Orleans was a bumping hub as it relates to film. So it definitely that helped kind of motivate that push. That was a big gig.
And then after that, Lethal Weapon happened, which we talked about. Then the killing of 2 lovers, and now the integrity of Joseph Chambers, which you guys have. Was that just in Tribeca a couple weeks ago? I feel like on your Instagram I saw you and Mikey there.
Yeah, it was at Tribeca. We premiered there. That was our world premiere in competition. And then we're at Champaliers, which is in Paris.
Yep.
And then now we're about to have our Melbourne premiere in a couple of weeks, or next week. I think it's August 4th.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bob, if we can, we'll play the trailer now for it and pop it up because this isn't sold, correct?
Yeah. We have correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm in the process.
Yeah. So let's play this trailer because this is fantastic, and then we'll chat about it here after this. Go ahead and play it, Bob.
Hey, little lady.
I'm sleeping. Please go back to the bathroom, shave it off.
I'm not shaving it off. It's my hunting look. Tons of guys around here hunt for their livelihood.
You're not from here, Joe.
Can I borrow your rifle?
Do you need ammo?
No, I bought some. Sorry.
If you just wait till next week, I can go.
Thanks again. This is Jeffrey Dean Morgan is in this. Michael Raymond James. Jordana Brewster. It's a stack cast.
It was nice during COVID.
Hillary Burton.
I'm the mustache man.
Not in it.
Oh, she's married to Jeffrey
any way I
Dean.
can.
The whole point of this was I could take care of my family. My wife didn't even want me to come out here today. I'm just saying, it seems like the whole world's falling apart. Come on, Joe. These things happened. You're doing what's right. And you did the right thing, Joe. You have to tell me what happened.
That's a dope-ass trailer, dude. That's a dope-ass trailer. How did you get Jeffrey Dean Morgan to be in this?
I worked with Hillary on Lethal Weapon.
That's right.
Yeah, so she came on, and her and I just hit it off, man. I didn't know anything about her. I was not I'd never watched One Tree Hill, which I know you were
Gigantic
a
fan.
huge
Oh, yeah. Still am today, brother.
Yes, you are.
Dan
sir.
Scott Motors for life on this side.
God, remind me to tell you the one story about One Tree Hill.
Oh, were you...
That was the first time I was fired.
Yeah.
So we did an episode, and she came on and she did a few episodes, and we just hit it off, man. I just dug the heck out of her, and I dug her kid, and he was kind of close age. Gus is close to Colt's age, and I didn't even know she was married to Jeff, and I love Jeff from The Watchmen, back in the day, like I just
Yeah, the
dug the
comedian.
dude. Yeah,
Yeah,
man,
great role.
Just dig the dude, and he just seems like such a guy's guy, right? And she's like, that's my husband, yada yada. And so we just all became good buddies, and then when I was at their wedding, I just told him, I was like, hey, I've been making these little movies, and I'd love to include you. And he was down. So Jeff came in, and he was great, man, because it was right in the middle of COVID, and I called him and Jordan. I was like, hey, we're all at home. If you guys want to just come play, let's just make a little movie in Birmingham, my community there in Alabama. And Jeff goes, hey, I tell you what, He goes, if you can get me to Alabama without having to go through an airport, I'll work for free. So I get on the phone to my buddy, who I was telling you, he was a pilot at FedEx.
You had to give him a PJ, didn't you?
Dude, I had to get him. So I called my buddy, and I'm like, hey, I need a plane, and we got to get Jeff to Alabama. And I'll be damned if he didn't find a jet. Flew up there, picked up Jeff, brought him into Birmingham, shot him for 8 hours, flew his ass back home.
No shit.
No shit.
That's amazing.
Just amazing, man. Like, the people that came out to help us make this film. And yeah, essentially after The Killing of Two Lovers, because the movie came out during COVID and it's this weird time, but I just felt that we needed to kind of, there's value in kind of momentum, right? And kind of saying that the train is leaving the station, and whether you guys want to be on board or not. And I had some investors that came in who I love, my dear friends who went to Sundance with me when we took The Killing of Two Lovers, and they go, hey man, I want to make a movie. And they gave us some cash, so we went and shot it, and we premiered it at Tribeca. And now we're in this weird place of trying to figure out where the real market lies for independent film.
Yeah, and you mentioned NFTs earlier, about selling some NFTs maybe of the movie or film frames. Explain it to the audience.
I think, look, I'm not a tech guy by any means, okay? I know how to tell stories, and I love connecting human beings. And so for me, I was trying to, when NFTs were brought to my attention, I was having a difficult time understanding the value of JPEG files, right? These images being sold for these, it kind of felt like a Beanie Baby craze.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and I was just like, man, who's really controlling this market? And I was kind of watching as an observer. But as I started researching and, like everyone else, kind of watching TED Talks and trying to figure out what the heck's going on with blockchain in this world, I started to realize that it's still really just a matter of building community, right? Mm-hmm. And that people are truly lonely, okay? And that it's all about how can we feel that we're somewhat connected and have a voice. So I was like, okay, I don't think there's value necessarily from my perspective in, again, this image that can be kind of printed and but I did see value in the blockchain, and I did see value in kind of creating this community. So I said, okay, well, why don't we take the film, why don't we break it down into frames, and why don't we sell the frames? But what I started to learn with the NFT as it relates to like its second generation is that it's more about the utility that the NFT kind of represents. And I think you guys have talked about that with kind of selling NFTs, and it's kind of a past like your bar.
It's access,
kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's access to a group. So for me, I've been kind of offering this through my foundation because when I got Lethal, I realized I had a platform that I could help raise money for certain organizations in Birmingham that were kind of struggling. And if I could call some of my my buddies who, are on TV and have podcasts and all these different and athletes, and we could all come together and the fans could feel that they were a part of what it was we were doing, and they had actual access to us as opposed to
middlemen. What you're describing is what independent creators need to figure out. Maybe it's NFT, maybe it's something that plus something else, but it's how do we create more monetization and vertical integration from the creator standpoint and a direct-to-consumer creator economy.
I agree with that. And so the model I was using was, again, I found that the fans just wanted to be involved kind of in what it was we were doing, and they wanted to be near us. That wasn't in that convention kind of structure to where you have to stand in these long lines, you're paying $30 per photograph and a signed image kind of thing. I was like, okay, well, what if they can come and hang out with us and they can be a part? And I found that we were raising a ton of money for these local charities. So in this NFT, I thought, okay, was there a world where if I'm making a film, if I'm selling these NFTs and I'm selling them a frame of the film, but what I'm essentially giving them is an opportunity where I'm going to draw winners to come to premieres. I'm going to have winners that come to set and have lunch and dinner with cast and crew. I'm going to have winners that can be extras in the film, and I can even give a line in the film, right? If it's the valet guy, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I can offer an experience, right, an IRL that goes with this NFT, and if that can somehow allow me to continue to create independently, then I'm all for it. Is it going to work? I don't know.
Yeah, Dan talks about this all the time, actually. Yeah.
The reality of the situation is if a person at home that likes to consume content, if you want the kind of shit that you want and you're irritated about all the bureaucratic nonsense, the woke nonsense, if you're tired of that, then you need to work with us and figure out a way to spend your money in a way that doesn't account for 700 to 3,000% markup on popcorn in a theater, and instead gets that money to the creator so they can make better and more content. Like
it's the more, and that's you're right, because what I'm finding when I did, because for me, the biggest hurdle was just making a movie. So making The Killing of Two Lovers was such a big deal. And then I realized, okay, selling it is another obstacle that I've got to have to overcome. And through that process, I realized that everyone but us made money.
Yeah.
And that was super challenging. So I go, how do we continue to make these products? And I'm making films. I mean, I said I made that movie for $30,000. So, I mean, look, did we all break even and make a little bit of money? Yeah. Did the companies that sold the film and distributed the film make a lot more? 100%.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, we're the only artists that are not able to kind of take our product directly to consumer. So I've made 3 films during COVID. I made Best Clowns, which was Ashley Shelton, which we did with Thomas Lennon, you know, from Reno 911, and Robin Lively, who we love dearly.
Yeah.
And then
Was Robin in that?
Yeah, Robin's in that.
Dude,
yeah, she plays the mom.
She was the fucking best. To work
She's
with.
the greatest.
It's Blake's sister. Blake Lively's sister. Yeah.
The director mentioned to me, she goes, you know, my dream is to have Robin Lively, but I know, and I was like, oh, let me call Miss Rod. You know, I actually, she had no idea that you and I had such a lovely relationship with her. And then I did another film. My third film is called You and I, which is with Summer Shelton, Independent Spirit Award winner. She's in Poland right now, finishing sound because we received this beautiful grant from Polish International Film Festival. And I'm in this place where I have 3 films, a thriller, a comedy, and a romance. And I'm trying to figure out how do I get this directly to consumers without having to kind of have a middleman involved. So
we chat about this all the time on the show of where these films live, what's going to happen with them, because Andrew Schultz right now put his special out after pulling it from Netflix, and he's made 3 times the amount that of his advance for it. And it is totally possible.
Is that the numbers that he's pulled from that?
Yes. Yeah.
That was a great podcast.
Yeah. Giorgio, is that correct or no? Did you listen to the show? Did he make 3 times the amount? Yeah, he did.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like, to be honest, this whole world is right there for YouTube to grab and make that content creator direct consumer model that Amazon has not done. So Amazon has taken all their ability to distribute and went out to old studios and be like, hey, come make Jack Ryan. Come make Terminal List. And look, I fucking love that shit, right?
Yeah.
But this other stuff needs to have an outlet as well. YouTube is prime because they have the distribution network, the YouTube website that nobody else can replicate.
But they don't.
That's also intrinsically integrated with the Google search algorithm, which is the most used website in the fucking world.
I agree, and it could be amazing, but they don't pay the artists.
That's what's
that's what they have to figure out.
That they don't. The only way for the artist to get paid is for it to be, again, directly to consumer, right? So we're working on figuring out what that path is, and the beauty is technology is getting us there, because what we were discussing earlier, it's so now for the first time in, I don't know, filmmaking history, you can go out with a few $1,000s and make a film, okay? Technology is there as it relates to the equipment, and you're not having to buy film, and you can shoot forever, and you can edit it on your laptop, right? And we have more outlets than ever before for this content, and yet they're refusing to buy these little films. There's no way I could have had The Killing of Two Lovers funded, right? But you go look at something like Yellowstone. Yellowstone was past every streaming service and network in Hollywood said no one wants to watch a show about this.
Yeah.
Which is weird because it's one of the most popular shows.
It's
based on Dallas.
It's number one, though.
It's based on Dallas, is one of the most ubiquitously popular. So Dallas is.
But there was 4 channels when that came on, right?
Right.
I mean, you had 0. You're talking about there was only 4 things it was on at 8 o'clock. Now, and I said this to you, I'm going to the airport, and I don't care if she's 18 or if he's 7 years old. He's watching Yellowstone on his laptop. She's watching it on her phone.
Yeah.
So I don't think the gatekeepers necessarily. That's the other thing. I go all the way back to the fear factor. Everyone is so fearful of losing their jobs, and no one speaks up. There's no one uses the only thing that we all have, which is our gut and, of course, our intellect. But with art, you kind of have to go with your gut feeling. And it's just been completely dismissed. And as a result, Hollywood is kind of clamoring because now, everyone just wants to remake Top Gun. Mm-hmm. Okay, because it was the biggest thing. So,
well, Top Gun is like the fucking girl who got famous on TikTok and now she's making a bunch of money.
But you even go to
like
Taylor
randomly.
Well, what Taylor's doing, like Taylor Sheridan, the fact that he, who is such an incredible artist and such an incredible writer and director, but this guy, everyone tells him no for as long as he gets told no. And what's so wild is how the pendulum swings in the opposite direction. So now he has, a 25-picture deal in the next 5 years. He has to deliver series.
Yeah.
So it's just there's just no balance. So for me, I feel like that we're moving into a direction where the audience can control the content and what they're receiving because your voice is now heard based on these subscription bases. Yeah. The challenge is how do we get these guys who are willing to download a comedy a stand-up show. How can we get those guys to also download a series or a feature? And that's what we're trying to navigate. So for me, I'm hoping that by building a community, and we're a community that says, okay, you already have these films, because a lot of the film projects that are coming out as NFTs, what they're essentially doing is creating an NFT in hopes to raise money to then go shoot the product. Well, to me, that seems like bullshit because you don't know what this guy or this female are going to bring to you. I said, I'm going to make the movies, and I'm going to show you what quality I'm going to bring to the table and what kind of product it is. And then you guys tell me if you guys approve of what it is that we're creating, then we're going to build this community based on the future of these products. Because I think if you can sell an NFT, whatever it is, based on whatever job, and now this community are all producers on this film or this series, those 10,000 individuals can go out and they can create buzz for the project. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that is, because it's all about awareness, right? So maybe if we're all invested in these projects together, that can kind of help build the incentive to go out and kind of promote it. Mm. Because otherwise, guys, I'm making movies for nothing. And I'm telling you, the offers that they come in, that they want to take these films from you, I don't know how I can go as a producer to someone and say, give me $4 million when they're offering us $500,000 to buy a movie that I made for $200,000.
Yeah,
right.
Netflix is paying $50,000 for an independent film just to run it.
Correct. And then they own it for 15 years.
Yes, I just had Paramount Plus just bought one of my old movies maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and I was like, "What was that deal?" And they were like $20,000.
What did they get? What did they buy from you?
FDR American Badass.
Amazing.
So it's on there now, and you see the poster and the trailer and everything else. And I called the studio. I was like, hey, because the rights are up in 2 years. And I was like, what was the rights for it? And they were like, 1 year. I was like, all right, cool. What do they pay for 1 year? And they were like, like $20,000. And I was like,
yeah,
okay, all right. That's where we're at. And I don't know how to change it. I think this is a positive step forward, and we'll see. Where can everybody find it and help you out on it?
Well, look, I mean, right now, I would say go to bloodyseahorse.io, which is where we're going to be launching the NFTs. And again, it's for me, I feel the value is having ownership of the content. And I want, because when I go and make these films, I give 50% back into the investors and 50% to my creatives, because a lot of times we're all working for free. Mm-hmm. And if I can find a world where we can continue to kind of make these films and be able to pay everyone, because otherwise I just don't see how independent filming, again, we were talking about Coda before, that's a $10 million independent movie.
Right.
That's not independent.
It's not independent.
I mean, I guess it is nowadays as it relates to scale and budget, but you and I, again, I go back to, it doesn't require what it did 10 years ago to make a movie.
Right.
And yet we're being penalized for being able to create quality content.
On an iPhone.
On an iPhone,
You can shoot it in 4K if you want, and if
which
you got
I did.
the right DP.
I didn't shoot this film on an iPhone, but But yeah, so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to find a way again to maybe if we're all included, that'll be more of an incentive to kind of support these stories, because I do think after what we watched with The Killing of Two Lovers, there is an audience for it.
Mm-hmm. There is. The only person who's doing a good job of it, in my opinion, is Hulu. Some of the best independent movies I've seen are on Hulu.
That's who bought Killing of Two Lovers. I mean,
yeah.
It's again, those guys
they're in the market for it. Netflix wants to own their own content. Apple, nowhere close. They're only doing $150 million movies.
Apple's going after sports, though.
Yes.
They're going to
Correct.
have baseball and football locked up by 2025.
YouTube, by the way, as of today, has entered the fray, and we'll talk about that in the sports show in about an hour. But
Apple's the front runner.
Me personally, I would love it if it was YouTube, just because it's so easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy, and everything you've always said about YouTube, about the interface and the future and all that stuff, it is still the easiest app to use, navigate, and find things.
Google
easily.
is Skynet.
Yeah.
They're the ones that have their fingers in literally everything, including the most dominated website on earth.
Because we don't make dick off this, by the way, Clayne.
No.
We make dick off of YouTube. Like $2,000 a month if we're lucky.
So it's all sponsors.
It's it.
Yeah.
It's all advertisers.
But we're
and
generating at least 1 million, like literal, like 27-minute views.
Last month was
Per
1.2 million views, and the average time watched was 32 minutes. Usually the average time watched on YouTube is like 4 minutes. And then we're destroying it, but they're not happy with the content and the guests sometimes or whatever, and it's like, all right, great. But the audio destroys because they can't touch that. If YouTube was able to open up the algorithm to independent films, podcasts, no matter what the views were, opinions, guests, everything else, then they'd make even more money. I don't understand what's stopping it at this point. Which is why I'd love to see football or some of these other places go there where open it up to the world.
It gives them enough money to like do some passion projects.
100%.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to take some kind of big deal like that, right? That big contract to open it up to where they can take these chances. I know that there's going to. I think there's. What was interesting for me when I was on Lethal, and we had. Fox had the Super Bowl. We went to the Super Bowl. And, and both years.
28-3, right?
Come on, dude. Yeah, we were at the 28-3 game.
I mean, look, if you're a Brady fan, it was rad. If you're a Falcons fan, it sucked. But what was interesting is that we had those major events, and they were promoting us during those sporting events, and those guys were more motivated by our social media presence than they were anything else.
Even the show itself.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm hoping that with Jeff has an incredible fan base, millions of followers, and Jordana as well. I'm hoping that there's a correlation between followers and downloads. And I know that the comedians are finding that. And again, maybe it's like you guys are saying, maybe it's kind of finding, YouTube, but I think it's the fans and the community have just got to be supportive. Otherwise you're going to continue to get the same content, and I think that'll be a big loss if we lose independent film.
Well, it's going to be so competition in the market is good too, and right now the competition is between Marvel and anybody else that's making an actual good action movie, and then whatever the fuck DC's been doing. You know what I mean?
Well, it's all IP. I mean, that's really what it is. They want that built-in marketing, but it's kind of what you were kind of alluding to before. It's like, what can I put it? What can we make? A toy, a shirt, a song?
It's
and then they want more out of the actors to do so. So I'm not sure if you guys caught what happened yesterday with Black Adam, who's The Rock is playing Black Adam, but he went to Comic-Con in San Diego. He was in character. I mean, in the full suit, dude. In the full suit, and walked out onto the stage. And it's like, for social media, clicks, articles, all that shit.
You're saying that he had to put on the costume to come out?
Bob, can you pull up Black Adam for The Rock yesterday? He's in full costume, and he comes out on stage.
You got to be kidding me.
And all I thought was, oh, my God, if they asked you to do that, you would have...
I don't know how to respond to that.
There you go. Pop it up on the screen. There you go. Boom. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah, dude. So that's him on stage yesterday. Full everything, all the shit. And
what?
Yeah, that image went around the world. And that's what they want. That's what they expect out of actors and everything else.
Well, let's just all take a moment to appreciate that is a specimen of
my God, dude. Yeah. I mean, good for him.
Right.
Because it looks like he's only wearing
discipline.
paint. Yeah. And like they paint over his ding dong, and they were just like, "Hey, go out to the crowd, and then we'll do
paint
this.
over his ding dong?"
No one will ever know. But what we will know is this is the point in the show we get to the Drinkin' Bro of the Week. Who is your Drinkin' Bro of the Week? Someone who has inspired you or helped you become the person you are today.
I'd say my grandpa, and I might say him every time, but my
Private
papa,
Aldridge?
man, Private Aldridge, man. He's just I live my life as a, I'm a farmer, and because he was, I'm lucky enough. He was not, but I'm lucky to where I have a job that provides a living for my family, and I can go out there without kind of the repercussions if it doesn't work well, that everyone's going to starve to death. But this guy worked his ass off every single day of his life, and he served his country and fought in World War II. And he took everything in stride with a laugh and made jokes. And like I said, took the piss out of me any chance he could. After the Damon thing, after the Lethal Weapon thing, I mean, every time I would have an event, he's like, "Is Damon going to come show up for this thing or what? Huh? You going to have your buddy come down here?" So he's just the guy that always kept me super humble and yeah, man. Yeah, that generation, right? That should be the men and women that served this country during World War II. That should be the Drinkin' Bros, man, for sure. Yeah,
100%. And then before we get out of here, the One Tree Hill story, if I remember correctly, was you were a rapist. And Chad Michael Murray peels you off of some girl and then beats the shit out of you. And I believe you said, Chad Michael Murray will never beat me up in real life, therefore I'm not going to have him beat me up on screen.
It's very close. It's very close. It's very close. I rolled in with a mohawk. I just finished The Great Raid, and they offered me this role, and they kept trying to get me to come down. And I'd shaved my head to a mohawk, kind of as an act of rebellion for sure. It was just like, again, it was kind of that fuck Hollywood kind of thing, which, again, I was just a dumb kid.
It's interesting because paratroopers before war very frequently shave mohawks into their heads.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
So maybe you did it and you didn't know.
I didn't know.
Were you a rapist? Was I right on that?
Yep. It was definitely a rapist. And I get to work and they were like, "Hey," and they put me on all this cool chain metal and they were like doing this cool stuff. And I was like a punk rocker. And I was like, "This haircut's going to work perfectly." It sure is. And I was like, "Great." I get back to my hotel and they're like, "Hey, so they want you to come back to the studio. They got to ask you some questions." So I go down there and the executive was like, "Hey, so we've changed the character. And he's going to be a frat guy." And because my character was meant to beat up Chad Michael Murray. And they go, "And Chad's now going to kind of get the best of you." I was like, "Oh, well, that kind of sucks. That changes everything." And they're like, yes, we're going to need you to cut your hair." I was like, no, that'd be weird because then I just have like this strip. He's like, "Our people are pretty talented. They'll fade it in, make it look right." I was like, "I don't think so. No, I don't think." And I said, "I really don't want to get beat up by Chad." And they're like, too bad. And I said, "Well, look, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go back to my condo, and you guys figure it out, but I'm not cutting my hair, and we got to keep the character the same." And yeah, they fired me and sent me home. So that was
Do you remember who played the rapist?
I never watched the show, so I don't know.
Sean Ferris. I think it was Sean Ferris.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm almost positive.
Maybe because that's where I met Sean was on that. So maybe they gave him the role?
I think so. If memory serves me correct, it's a long time ago. Never
right.
back down. Never back down, you know?
Hey, he just had a baby.
Did he?
Yes,
Congratulations.
he did. Beautiful. Yeah, him and Sherry had a child.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, this was fun. And if you guys enjoyed it, hop on over to Drinkin' Bros Sports. We got barbecue here.
Yep.
We get Terry Blacks in the building, so give us 45.
Yeah, it's time to eat.
45. We're doing the college football preview show today. Sports Illustrated came out with the rankings. Alabama 1, Ohio State 2. I'm sure we'll have a couple opinions on who's going to win this year. For D'Anthony Holloway, Clayne Crawford, I'm Ross Patterson. This is the Drinkin' Bros podcast. Good night, everyone.